There is a mode of thinking that is mainly prominent in the political arena, one that I label establishment mentality. This is a mode of thinking that adheres to blind obedience to those in power and adheres to utter absence of any objective thinking as long as the said establishment is in authority. Complete shutdown of the brain is activated when the said establishment is in gear, but otherwise the brain reactivates itself. A great example of this is in the USA with the Democrat and Republican parties. An establishment support of the Democratic Party is one who will be a sharp critic of the Republican Party, especially when Republicans are in power, and who use due diligence to point out all the mistakes of the Republicans. But when a Democrat is in power and does those exact same mistakes, the establishment stooge will shut off their brain. Establishment Democrats will make remarks like, Republicans are hypocrites because they're against abortion but in favor of war. But these same people forget the irony that bluntly stares back at them, but the fact that they are supposedly against war but in favor of abortion. So they're against troops who all chose to join the military voluntarily, dying overseas, but it's okay to kill innocent babies against their will in the womb. Establishment Democrats will attack former President George Bush from the vision of Iraq, claiming it was a war for oil against a nation that was not a threat to them, but they shut off their brains when it comes to Obama's invasion of Libya, which was also against an oil-rich nation. So according to them, the Iraq war was an act of aggression, driven by lust for oil. But the Libyan invasion was to promote democracy and free a nation from a tyrant, even though both wars were engineered on a bedrock of lies. An establishment Democrat would attack former President Ronald Reagan for doubling the national debt in his time in office, but the same person who remained silent when it comes to Obama, who more than tripled the national deficit during his 8 years in power, simply because one president was a Republican and the other a Democrat. They would attack Fox News, calling it an opinionated right-wing news outlet, while they ignore the fact that CNN and MSNBC are propaganda platforms for the Democratic Party. When Bill Clinton harassed women and desecrated the Oval Office by committing adultery within it, he celebrated, but those same people villainized President Trump for comments he made 11 years before he ran for office. Establishment Democrats are incapable of thinking critically due to the conformist mentality they impose on themselves, and also vice versa is true with Republican establishment supporters. Not all Democrat or Republican supporters suffer from the disease of establishment mentality. It is only found in those that refuse to leave the boat, even when in sinking. The only way to overcome this is to be a critical thinker at all times, not just when the opposition is in power. Learn to question everything. If you're a right-winger, don't give the right-wing government a pass on mistakes they make just because they're right-wing. Wrong is wrong, no matter who does it. We do not need reform in regard to the establishment mentality, but rather an utter transformation. That is because the reformist agrees with the fundamental ideas of whatever he seeks to reform, as his mission is to endeavor in the adjustment of its periphery to conform it with the fundamental. I'm not a reformist, at least not in regard to the establishment mentality. There must be a complete transformation if we are to succeed. Be a critical thinker at all times. Be an intellectual. Do not follow a multitude to do evil.